In the dazzling world of Hollywood, fame often feels like an unbreakable armor until it cracks. Beneath the red carpets, designer gowns, and flashing cameras lies a world of secrets too dark for the spotlight. These are the stars who once lived in luxury but now wake up behind bars, their mansions replaced by cold, concrete cells. From shocking betrayals to crimes that destroyed entire careers, this is the chilling truth behind 19 celebrities currently rotting in jail, and the disturbing reasons that put them there. Starting with none other than Suge Knight. Some musicians are remembered for their music. He's remembered for mayhem. In the 1990s, while running Death Row Records, Suge turned the label into both a hip-hop empire and a war zone. When he wasn't producing hits, he was allegedly threatening rivals, using intimidation and violence to keep control. Those tactics landed him behind bars more than once, but every time he got out, he came back bigger. Working with icons like Tupac and Snoop Dogg only fueled his fame and his infamy. But you can only play with fire for so long before it burns you for good. After decades of rumors that tied him to violent attacks, even whispers of involvement in Tupac's murder, Suge finally crossed a line no one could ignore. In January 2015, he ran over Terry Carter with his car, ending his life in broad daylight. This time, there was no denying the evidence. Security footage told the story clearly. In 2018, after a long, drawn-out trial, Suge Knight was sentenced to 28 years in prison. He's still there today, and won't see freedom until at least October 2034. Stay tuned, because later in this video we'll reveal the WWE wrestler rotting in jail for an unthinkable crime involving his own daughter. If you thought Suge's story was insane, wait until you hear this one. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because we've got more shocking scandals, hidden secrets, and Hollywood downfalls that Tinseltown never wanted you to see. Skylar Julius De Leon's story is one of the darkest falls from grace in Hollywood's shadowy corners. Once a child actor who appeared in Power Rangers, Skylar seemed destined for a bright future. But behind the innocent face was a storm brewing. Her early life was marked by abuse, instability, and failure. Even the US Navy discharged her after just 15 days. Broke, desperate, and spiraling, Skylar began searching for fast money, no matter the cost. In 2002, that desperation turned deadly. Skylar, alongside her wife and a few accomplices, targeted an older couple selling their yacht off the California coast. What began as a fake business deal became a brutal crime. The victims were tied up, weighted down, and thrown into the ocean, never to be seen again. Skylar and her crew sailed away, thinking they had just scored the perfect crime. For a while, it almost looked like they had. But years later, one of the accomplices broke down and confessed everything. That confession unraveled the entire plot, and Skylar was arrested and convicted of first-degree murder. She narrowly escaped the death penalty only because California had abolished capital punishment. Today, Skylar remains behind bars, serving life without parole. In a haunting twist, she has since undergone a gender transition and now identifies as a woman, a tragic and chilling reminder of how fame, desperation, and moral collapse can collide in the darkest ways imaginable. War Machine, even the name sounds like a warning, and in this case, it absolutely was. Born Jonathan Copenhaver, he stormed into the MMA scene with a fighter's body and a brawler's ego, earning fame for his brutal knockouts and equally explosive personality. In the ring, he was unstoppable. Outside of it, he was a ticking time bomb. His relationship with adult film star Christy Mack started like a Hollywood fantasy, passion, fame, and danger, but quickly descended into a nightmare. Behind closed doors, Christy later revealed, War Machine's aggression didn't stay in the cage. She accused him of violence and emotional abuse, claims that led to their painful split. But the real horror came afterward. One night, consumed by rage and jealousy, War Machine showed up at Christy's apartment, and what followed was pure brutality. He attacked both Christy and her new boyfriend in a fit of uncontrollable violence so shocking that even hardened detectives were shaken. When the dust settled, the once promising fighter was no longer a star, he was a criminal. Charged and later convicted on 29 felony counts, War Machine's name became a symbol of wasted potential and terrifying rage. The man who once fought for glory would now spend the rest of his life behind bars, battling only his own demons. Kelly. Some might argue that a few celebrities on this list don't truly deserve to be locked away. But when it comes to R. Kelly, there's almost no debate. Once hailed as the king of R&B, he wasn't just a star, he was a powerhouse. With more than 70 million records sold worldwide, awards stacked high, and a career that defined a generation, Kelly had everything. Money, fame, influence, and he used it for all the wrong reasons. His downfall began long before most people realized. Back in 2008, Kelly faced charges for possessing explicit images of minors, a case that sent shockwaves through the industry. Yet somehow he slipped through the cracks. His fame, his fortune, and his powerful connections kept him untouchable. For years, journalists whispered and investigators probed, but justice seemed out of reach. Then came 2019. The release of the explosive documentary Surviving R. Kelly ripped the curtain wide open. The world finally saw the ugly truth: years of abuse, manipulation, and predatory behavior hiding behind chart-topping hits. Overnight, his empire began to crumble. His record label cut ties. Concerts were canceled. And soon after, R. Kelly was arrested on multiple charges across several states. From there, the headlines only got darker. In 2021, he was convicted of transporting women across state lines for illegal acts. A year later, he faced new convictions for creating and possessing explicit material involving minors. Through it all, Kelly claimed innocence, but the public wasn't buying it. Especially after that infamous meltdown during his CBS This Morning interview with Gayle King, where his emotional outburst became late-night comedy material on SNL. When the dust settled, the so-called king of R&B was dethroned for good. 31 years behind bars, a tragic, self-inflicted fall from grace. If nothing changes, R. Kelly won't walk free again until 2045. Michael Jace's story is one of Hollywood's darkest turns. In the 1990s and 2000s, he built a solid reputation with roles in shows like Law and Order and The Shield, admired for his grounded performances and calm demeanor. But in 2014, everything came crashing down. What began as a heated argument between Jace and his wife spiraled into an unthinkable tragedy. In a moment of rage, he pulled the trigger, ending her life and destroying his own. When police arrived at the scene, Jace didn't run or hide. He confessed immediately, standing in shock over what he had done. The courtroom that followed became a place of heartbreak, especially when his own son was called to testify against him. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict: second-degree murder. The judge's words sealed his fate: 40 years to life in prison. Once a familiar face on television, Michael Jace is now serving a sentence that will likely keep him behind bars for the rest of his life, a haunting reminder of how one violent moment can erase a lifetime of work. The Kid Creole. The Kid Creole was once a respected name in hip-hop, a founding member of the legendary Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, a pioneer who helped shape the very sound of rap. But in August 2017, one night changed everything. What began as a brief exchange with a homeless man on a New York City street spiraled into a deadly confrontation. Moments later, the man lay fatally wounded, and the Kid Creole's fate was sealed. Surveillance cameras captured the altercation, leaving little room for doubt. Though he insisted he acted in self-defense, the court saw things differently. In April 2022, he was sentenced to 16 years in prison, a devastating fall for a man once celebrated as a hip-hop trailblazer. Now, behind bars until at least 2038, the Kid Creole's story stands as a chilling reminder of how one tragic moment can erase a lifetime of legacy. C. Murder. Most people behind bars claim they're innocent, but in C. Murder's case, he might just be telling the truth. Born Corey Miller in New Orleans, he rose to fame in the late 90s as one of the driving forces of No Limit Records. His album Life or Death shot into the Billboard Top 3, and by the early 2000s, he was stacking platinum hits, living the dream every street poet imagined. Corey, now known to the world as C. Murder, seemed unstoppable. But that dream collapsed in 2002 when his life suddenly mirrored his stage name. Corey was arrested and later convicted of second-degree murder. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Yet even in the courtroom, cracks began to show. The presiding judge eventually sent the case back for retrial after it was revealed that prosecutors had hidden the fact that several key witnesses had criminal backgrounds, raising serious doubts about the fairness of the verdict. While awaiting a new trial, Corey was placed under strict house arrest. His music career froze. He couldn't tour, couldn't promote his latest album or novel, and even visitors had to be approved by a judge before stepping through his door. Then in 2009, things spiraled again. Corey pleaded no contest to 2 separate counts of attempted second-degree murder, a move that didn't admit guilt but sentenced him to 10 years behind bars. That sentence only worsened when he faced another jury later that year, one that ended up divided. Years later, several jurors came forward admitting they had been pressured by law enforcement. In a shocking twist, multiple witnesses publicly recanted their testimonies, claiming they were threatened or coerced into lying. One even said police locked them in a hotel room until they agreed to make a statement. With revelations like these, the question still haunts the public. Was C. Murder truly guilty? Or was he another man trapped in a broken system? And if he's innocent, will he ever see freedom again? Elizabeth Holmes, the woman who went from Silicon Valley's golden girl to a cautionary tale. You know what's more shocking than earning $9 billion? Losing every single penny of it and ending up behind bars for more than a decade. When Elizabeth Holmes began her journey, she dreamed of standing shoulder to shoulder with the tech titans, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. Her startup, Theranos, promised a miracle. With just a single drop of blood, it could detect hundreds of diseases and deliver instant results. One sleek little machine, no bigger than a printer, that could replace an entire hospital lab. But there was one fatal problem: it didn't work. None of it did. Still, the illusion held. Money poured in from billionaires, politicians, and powerful corporations. Elizabeth became a media darling. Time magazine hailed her as the future of innovation, a beacon for women in tech. She wore the black turtleneck, spoke in a deep, hypnotic voice, and convinced the world she was unstoppable. Harvey Weinstein, the monster behind Hollywood's golden curtain. Let's be honest, you knew this man's name would show up eventually. Harvey Weinstein, once hailed as one of Hollywood's most powerful producers, now forever synonymous with disgrace. Everyone's heard the name, but not everyone knows just how deep the darkness ran. When the headlines exploded in October 2017, revealing allegations of lewd and indecent acts toward young women, the world was shocked. But here's the chilling truth: these weren't new accusations. They were just the latest in a decades-long trail of abuse and manipulation. For years, Weinstein's casting couch reputation was an open secret in Hollywood. Whispers filled the air, actresses invited to hotel rooms, meetings that turned into nightmares. And yet, the industry looked away. Fame, fear, and silence kept his empire alive. Then came the New York Times bombshell. Over a dozen women, their stories raw and horrifying, finally broke the wall of silence. This time, the world listened. And from that moment, nothing in Hollywood would ever be the same. Weinstein's fall was swift and brutal. Arrested, tried, and convicted, the once untouchable mogul was sentenced in May 2018 to 23 years behind bars, with another 16 tacked on later. Every appeal since has been denied. The man who once decided careers now sits in a prison cell, a living reminder that power without conscience always ends in destruction. Tory Lanez, once one of hip-hop's most talented voices, watched his fame spiral into infamy after one shocking night changed everything. Known for his hits and swagger, Tory's world came crashing down when he pulled a firearm on fellow rapper Megan Thee Stallion. The shooting sent shockwaves through the music industry, igniting outrage and disbelief. But instead of showing remorse, Tory doubled down, publicly accusing Megan of lying and painting himself as the victim. What followed was a storm of backlash, courtroom drama, and lost respect. His defiance only made things worse. In December 2022, justice caught up with him. A jury found Tory Lanez guilty on 3 felony charges, sealing his fate. Today, the once celebrated artist sits behind bars, facing a decade in prison. A sobering reminder of how one reckless decision can destroy everything fame built. Jared Fogel's story was once hailed as one of the most inspiring weight loss transformations of the 2000s, but it would soon become one of the darkest scandals in modern pop culture. Back then, Subway discovered Jared's claim that he had lost hundreds of pounds by eating their sandwiches every day. The company saw a marketing goldmine. Almost overnight, Fogel became the face of healthy eating in America. He appeared in commercials, talk shows, and even had a South Park episode dedicated to him. By 2009, his fame had reached absurd heights. He was everywhere, even guest starring in Sharknado. But beneath that friendly smile and corporate polish, something horrifying was brewing. The turning point came when Russell Taylor, the director of the Jared Foundation, a charity supposedly created to fight childhood obesity, was arrested for possessing child exploitation material. The revelation sent shockwaves through the media and cast an eerie shadow over Jared's image. Soon after, the unthinkable happened. Investigators found evidence linking Jared himself to the same kind of disturbing crimes. In July 2015, federal agents raided his home and discovered a vast collection of illegal material involving minors. The wholesome Subway guy America once adored was exposed as a predator. His fall from grace was swift and absolute. Fogel was sentenced to 15 years and 8 months in federal prison, where he remains to this day, a haunting reminder of how a hero's image can mask a horrifying truth. Will Hayden's story is one of fame turned nightmare. Once the face of Discovery Channel's hit series Sons of Guns, he built a reputation as a tough, no-nonsense gunsmith who brought firepower to life on national TV. But the man who looked like a rugged American craftsman on screen would later make headlines for something far darker. In August 2014, Hayden's world collapsed when he was arrested on multiple charges of assaulting underage girls, accusations that painted a horrifying picture of years of abuse. Despite his constant denials, the evidence against him mounted quickly. Former employees, friends, and even close family members stepped forward to testify against him. The most devastating blow came when his own daughter revealed that she, too, had been a victim. From that moment, there was no saving his reputation. The man who once crafted precision weapons for television became a symbol of betrayal and corruption. When the final verdict came down, it was brutal: 3 life sentences plus 40 years. Will Hayden will spend the rest of his life behind bars, his legacy forever shattered, his fame replaced by infamy. Kamaine Wilson, better known as Young QC, was a name once whispered with promise in Chicago's underground rap scene. Ambitious, confident, and hungry for fame, he seemed destined for the spotlight. But beneath the flashy cars and self-made image lurked a darkness no one saw coming. In a shocking twist that stunned even hardened detectives, Young QC did the unthinkable. He orchestrated the murder of his own mother. Police later revealed that his motive was chillingly simple: greed. He wanted her inheritance money and life insurance payout, believing that cash could buy him the fame and power he craved. Instead of chart-topping hits, he got handcuffs. Arrested in 2014, Wilson spent 6 long years behind bars awaiting trial. When the verdict finally came in 2020, the judge made sure his fame would be for all the wrong reasons, sentencing the rapper to 99 years in prison. A rising star turned cold-blooded killer, Kamaine Wilson's story is a haunting reminder of how far some will go for fame, and how quickly the dream can turn into a nightmare. Joe Exotic, the Tiger King's wild fall from fame. If there were ever an award for the wildest life in America, Joe Exotic would take it, hands down. Known to the world as the self-proclaimed Tiger King, Joe built his fame through flashy magic shows, eccentric business ventures, and his very own private zoo filled with big cats in the heart of Oklahoma. But behind the glitter and growls was a man spiraling deeper into chaos. When he wasn't taming tigers or entertaining crowds, Joe was busy running an unlikely presidential campaign, one that was more circus than politics. Yet his loudest battle wasn't in Washington. It was against animal rights activist Carol Baskin. What began as a bitter feud soon turned into a deadly obsession. In 2018, Joe's world came crashing down when authorities uncovered a shocking plot. He had allegedly hired a hitman to murder Carol. The evidence was damning, and Joe Exotic was arrested, facing not only conspiracy charges but also counts of animal cruelty and falsified wildlife records. Even behind bars, Joe refused to fade away. He launched lawsuits, begged for a presidential pardon, and kept his name alive through media interviews and a tell-all memoir. Still, nothing could overturn his fate, 22 years in federal prison. Yet in true Joe Exotic fashion, he's not done making noise. From his cell, he's announced a new political campaign for 2024, clinging to the hope that fame might one day set him free. Whether it ends in redemption or yet another spectacle, only time will tell. Ian Watkins once stood center stage as the electrifying frontman of Lost Prophets, a band that defined early 2000s rock with its rebellious sound and high-energy performances. Fans saw him as a charismatic leader, a star who had it all. But behind the fame, something dark was brewing. As early as 2006, whispers began circulating among crew members, disturbing rumors about Watkins' behavior with underage fans. By 2008, those whispers turned into alarming reports, and by 2010 his own girlfriend came forward, claiming Ian had shown her explicit images involving minors. The accusations were so horrifying that many refused to believe them at first. But the truth was far worse than anyone imagined. In June 2012, police finally arrested him. Over the next year, as court proceedings unfolded, each hearing peeled back another layer of depravity. Private messages surfaced, revealing a side of Watkins that shocked even those closest to him. By December 2013, the verdict was clear. He was sentenced to 29 years in prison for crimes that left the world in disbelief. But even behind bars, Ian's downfall continued. Reports from 2023 revealed that he was violently attacked by fellow inmates. Another grim chapter in a story that began with fame and ended in infamy. Once a symbol of rock rebellion, Ian Watkins is now remembered as one of music's darkest cautionary tales. Buck Zumhofe, from wrestling fame to unthinkable shame. Buck Zumhofe was once a showman who lived for the spotlight, a professional wrestler and musician known throughout the 80s and 90s as the King of Rock and Roll. He strutted into arenas with charisma, confidence, and a flair that made him a fan favorite. But behind the glitter and glory was a man harboring darkness far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. His disturbing record of inappropriate behavior with minors began as early as 1986, when he was convicted of unspeakable crimes and sentenced to 36 months behind bars. Just 3 years later, he faced another conviction. Yet somehow, Buck slipped through the cracks and managed to stay under the radar for decades. That illusion shattered in May 2013 when horrifying allegations surfaced, this time involving his own 15-year-old daughter. The case resulted in 12 criminal charges that shocked even those who once idolized him. And in March 2014, the world watched in disbelief as Buck attempted to flee the courtroom right after his guilty verdict was read. He didn't get far. Instead, he was tackled and sentenced to 25 years in prison, sealing his legacy not as a wrestling icon, but as one of the sport's darkest cautionary tales. Which one of these downfalls shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts below. We love hearing your take. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the darker side of fame, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next expose. Because here on Exposed Hollywood, we don't just tell the stories, we reveal the truth behind the fame. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and remember, every star casts a shadow.